Hello, this is Mr. Golias with the Legacy Challenge. You are looking at all the additional slides that we can add. Does each person have to do every one? No, you don't have to, but you get to participate in as many of these slides as you would like. I'm showing you an example of what a class looks like when it's done. You'll notice everything is turned in here. So even if you make a screencast, it's turned in here, and then all 4 or 5 of your team's slides will be turned in here. So let's look at a couple of the categories. One of them is student created questions of the days. There's 2 ways. Well, actually, here's a reminder. This is our team slide where it will have all your team names on. So we're adding on past your last slide of driving questions and all that. And the first one's called Legacy QODs. I actually use students' questions of the day. Here's an example of one team's where they had maybe 7 there, then they had another 7 on the second page. Another way to do this, I had someone who wanted to do some multiple choice ones, and you're welcome to do it that way as well. So you're just adding on to your team slide for questions of the day. Probably works out best this way, but again, you can add the multiple choice ones. A second thing you can do is the student created internet search questions. For example, here's the 2016-2017 student created one that maybe your class was able to answer. Every single one of these questions was created by my students. I did not create a single one, and that's what you get the opportunity to do for yours. You can just create a new slide like this team did and just start adding all your questions that you think would be good ones, and I go through those and I create brand new ones for the next rotation. The next ones I wanted to show you are the 1-minute and 3-minute videos, mostly found on YouTube. If you take a look, this group had all their links. You should put your name next to it. And by the way, your name will show up in the history as to who put something, just so we're clear. So obviously we're keeping everything appropriate. So even though none of these they forgot to put their name, I could still click on it and see who pasted it. So just be aware of that as well. But we're looking for motivational, inspirational, heartwarming type videos that will be used for next rotation. Another option that students have is to create student-created screencast tutorials. For example, in 7th grade, you'll notice that the Weebly tutorials you're looking at right now, these are all created by former students who did this on Legacy Day. Another good example is in 8th grade. If you look at all of these graphic design tutorials, these were actually created by the students for the new skills that you learn in 8th grade. So you can create a screencast for basically any type of graphic design, any skill, anything that you think our students need to be learning. You can create a quick screencast and you turn it in right here. Finally, the last thing on the list is the classroom improvement suggestions, and it's exactly that. We have an additional slide. This one's new in that we're putting it on our slide as opposed to a question of the day. But we're looking for, are there apps we should be using, websites we should be using, any ideas you have. We do this like any feedback. We want to keep it realistic. We want to be honest, and we want to be helpful as opposed to hurtful. And we're just trying to improve things for the next class. You guys have seen how many things and ideas have come from students, so I appreciate the feedback, and you are encouraged to do it on this slide. So you can see you have a lot of options of things you can be working on today. Choose the ones that sound most interesting, fun, and that you might be most passionate about, and you can go ahead and get started on that right now. Good luck.